phrase that adults use all the time, but it rarely actually materializes. It sounds a little something like, we should get together soon. You know, you run into somebody you haven't seen for a while at the grocery store. You're like, let's grab coffee. I'd love to catch up. And then 3 months later, nobody's reached out, no plans scheduled, and it just kind of fizzles out. But the funny part is, we actually mean it. I've noticed this happens all the time. As women, we are incredibly skilled at planning and scheduling appointments, from doctor's visits, work meetings. I mean, we often schedule our hair appointments at least a year in advance to get on the calendar. But then somehow, when it comes to scheduling plans, our calendar kind of stops cooperating. And I'm not judging. I do this too, even though I hate to admit it. Even when it comes to scheduling date nights with my husband. You would think we live in the same household and we have a scheduling advantage, but sometimes it just doesn't get on the calendar, which is funny because one of the longest studies ever done on happiness, the Harvard study of adult development, found that one of the biggest predictors of a long-term happy life is strong relationships. It wasn't money, it wasn't productivity, it wasn't this magical reaching inbox zero. It was connection. That's right, actual human connection, which raises a very important, reasonable question, I would say. If connection is so important, how come these meetings quietly slip off the calendar, or it doesn't become a priority? Somehow we can schedule a dentist appointment 6 months in advance, but when it comes to scheduling coffee with somebody we actually enjoy, it gets a bookmark on the calendar for a later date. That seems to never arrive. One reason this actually happens is pretty simple. We're just mentally overloaded. We have too much on our minds. It's like this never-ending to-do list between work, holidays, family logistics, errands. It's like an invisible to-do list that never really shuts off. So when we think about planning something socially, something we would actually enjoy, instead of our brain automatically putting it on the calendar, our brain's like, okay, let's put it in the we'll do that later list. And it seems as though the we'll do that later list is a very busy place to be that never actually materializes. I had been thinking about this a lot recently. There is several people that have been on my mind that I'm like, I need to get coffee with them. I need to send a text, see how they're doing, put it on the calendar. But when push came to shove, my brain and my thumbs couldn't exactly coordinate the mission together. It's like, I wish that I had an app of some sort that could take whatever was up here and just make it happen on my phone. Which, let's be honest, we're probably about 6 months away from this technology being available. Last weekend, I was at my women's group, and one of the ladies that had been on my mind came up to me, we started chatting, and I told her that I would love to schedule coffee, and I just haven't sent the text out. I had been meaning to for months, but I just didn't make it happen. And without missing a beat, she says, "What days are you available next week?" There was no discussion, there was no back and forth. It's like, that's when it clicked for me. Not 27 text messages later, not a whole drawn out conversation about what works, what doesn't work, this, that, and the other. Just let's put it on the calendar and do it. And then suddenly, that thing that had been floating around in my head for months took less than 30 seconds to put on the calendar, which is roughly the same amount of time that it takes me to find a Netflix show when I know that I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes scrolling instead of watching it, and I have to rewatch it anyway. If I didn't intentionally make space for quality time with my friends, my life would probably just consist of work, exercise, and maybe reality TV until I fall asleep and go to bed. Which, don't get me wrong, I love a good reality TV moment. But if my entire social life revolved around me watching strangers on an island trying to fall in love, I don't really think that that's the social connection that Harvard had in mind when they were doing the study. So lately, I've been trying something pretty simple. When someone pops into my mind that I genuinely want to see or connect with, I make an effort to send the text and put it on the calendar. Even if the only meeting we have available is 2 months down the road or 3 months, at least it's scheduled and on the calendar. And then I know I'm happier for doing it, because apparently adults have this strange rule where they can schedule a dentist appointment 6 months in advance. But then when it comes to scheduling coffee or lunch with somebody we actually want to spend time with, it becomes this operational, logistical nightmare. And the funny thing is that when I make space and time for the people I love and want to spend time with, put it on the calendar, I actually leave feeling better, more fulfilled, happier, energized every single time without fail, which makes it a little ironic. Because why do we spend so much time avoiding this? I mean, research shows that one of the biggest predictors of a happy life is strong, healthy relationships. So why do we put it on the back burner? We let connection just slowly slip off our calendar. So maybe the biggest takeaway here is pretty simple. Connection doesn't just happen because we mean well. It happens when we make space for it. And sometimes making space for it is as easy as just taking out your calendar in the moment and putting down a date and time.